Welcome. I'm Kevin Miller. This is a podcast for your personal evolution. In this episode, we're looking at self-reliance. What is healthy and helpful self-reliance? I submit that few of us really know, and most of us are falling to one side or the other of unhealth. On one side, we exercise very little self-reliance, which means if we're not relying on ourselves, we're relying on others too much. On the other side is an overabundance of self-reliance where we rely almost exclusively on ourselves and hardly at all on other people. So is there a happy medium? Is that the point? Or are there some aspects of our lives where we should be super reliant on ourselves and others where we should be seeking out help more? Well, this is why I brought on Maha Abouelenein. She has a new book. It's titled 7 Rules of Self-Reliance, How to Stay Low, Keep Moving, Invest in Yourself, and Own Your Future. I wanted to take on the concept and I brought her to do it. So Maha, she is a personal branding expert. She's CEO and founder of global communications consulting firm Digital and Savvy and a best-selling author. So she has this long, impressive pedigree that would take me a couple minutes to read of success in the corporate world, in the Middle East and in America. However, none of that is why I brought her on the show. Those are the result of her success with self-reliance, but she had a challenging upbringing that gave her every reason to be really a victim and not practice self-reliance or go the other way and say, I can't rely on anybody. It's all just me. That's what interested me. So again, she's got experience on both sides of that unhealth that I just spoke to above. So my focus here today is talking on this topic of self-reliance and just digging in and taking it on to understand how we're doing it poorly and how we can do it, me included, with greater success. You can find the book, of course, 7 Rules of Self-Reliance anywhere, and you can find Maha at Maha, M-A-H-A, last name Abouelenein, ABOUELENEIN.com. Hey, I'm grateful to share these messages on personal evolution on the podcast here. My core devotion then is walking with people in their own evolution and integrating these aspects into their work and their lives at all. But a lot of focus on work, a lot of focus on starting business within your personal evolution and purpose. You can connect with me at kevinmiller.co or email me at kmiller@kevinmiller.co. All right, coming up next, let's talk with Maha and take on this issue of self-reliance. Maha, I think the first thing that stuck out, of course, your book came across the desk. I saw the topic self-reliance. I was interested right away, flipped it open, and I saw 2 endorsements. And it was just, I really interested myself. So you got Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm going to exaggerate the point here by giving it some inflection. You got Gary saying, the book's an absolute game changer for anyone hustling to build their dream, scale their business, or simply step up their game. And then the next one is Deepak. And he says, the book is a profound exploration into the essence of creating one's destiny with conscious intention and deep self-awareness. And I thought, man, you just covered both ends of the spectrum. It's perfect. I love it. So thank you for being here. I'm eager to talk about both ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah. Gary's very high energy, explosive content, talking about all things culture and internet, and just wildly energetic. And Deepak's all about calm and centeredness and purpose. And they both coexist because we're also made up of the calm and the energetic sides of our lives. And I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so grateful to talk about the book, but actually so much more about really what not only drives me, but can really drive other people to pursue the things that they care about in their life.
Well, and I would say I'm probably somewhere in the middle of both of those guys. So we'll go whichever direction the spirit leads here. And so I'm eager to dig into self-reliance. And generally that's what I do. I dive right into the topic. However, people are here just as I am because we're all interested in our own self-evolution. We're looking at what's something that I can find out that I can make a change from and, of course, get better results. And so here you are today with this book on self-reliance, and you have a big story. I mean, I read the book and you've got a significant story. I'm going to ask about the significant times in your life leading up to now where you experienced that? You experienced, okay, I was going along and then X happened.
Yep.
And it was call it what, whatever you would call it. It was an awakening. It was an epiphany or a revelation. It was whatever. And from that, I made a change because that's what we all want to do. So even if you go back to, okay, what was like, one of the first times, early times of going, oh, X happened and you realized whatever.
Yeah. So the concept of the book of self-reliance, if you look at the title, you're like, oh, she's teaching us to rely on ourselves and not need anybody else and be independent. And you need to do things for yourself in order to succeed in life. The book is actually the opposite of that. It's what are the tools you need to be valuable to other people? What are the tools you need to invest in yourself? And I think throughout my career, my life, I got put in situations where like, the difference between succeeding or not succeeding or getting to the next step or not getting to the next step wasn't somebody else. It was me. I was the difference of, oh, can I create value for other people? Oh, can I create relationships that will help me bring in new opportunities? Oh, can I invest in building a good reputation and a good track record? Because having a good reputation and a personal brand is going to help me get into doors or rooms I wouldn't have been able to knock down. That's what the difference or the definition of self-reliance is for me. It's thinking of, you know what? Quit looking at other people to help you and start looking at the skills and expertise you have within yourself. What are the things that I went through my life? Like I got asked to write a speech for the Prime Minister of Egypt. I'm not a speechwriter. I don't write about politics. But can I rely on myself to work hard and put in effort? Yes. Can I rely on myself to do the homework, to study, to figure out what I need to do? Yes. Can I ask people for help? Self-reliance means asking people for help, not just doing it by yourself. The answer is yes. And am I willing to put myself in the shoes of the consumer to understand, well, if I was sitting in the audience, what would I want to hear? Sometimes we just get in our own head. Sometimes we are the ones that are blocking our own growth because we're overthinking it or we're waiting for permission or we feel failure. And that's one of the rules of the book of don't be a waiter. Don't wait for permission from other people when you actually have all the cards in your hand. And you can say, well, Maha, I don't have the skills or the experience to do that. That's right. What do you need to do reverse engineer to get those skills? What do you need to do to get that experience and make a game plan for it?
So with this concept on self-reliance, I mean, in your own journey coming up to deciding to write a book for it, was it just kind of a slow dawning? Things are going along and you're just having these little realizations. Was there any specific moment where maybe you weren't self-relying and you realized that? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I spent a good majority of my life, I started my career early working in corporate world, and I was expecting people to bring me opportunities. I was expecting my manager to see me. I was expecting them to give me the projects that were going to make me a rock star. I had expectations that if I worked hard and I deserved things, they would come to me. And I had the realization when I was very young that I can't be waiting. I can't be waiting for people to bring me opportunities. I need to be proactive. I need to act strategically. I need to anticipate needs. I need to solve problems. I can unlock things. And instead of waiting for people to ask me to do them, what if I took initiative? What if I had the steps within me? I was driven enough to think about not just this step, but the step after that. And I feel it happened to me countless times. I got asked to work for this gentleman in Egypt, and he asked me to do a job that I'd never done before. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And he's like, well, how did you know if you've never tried? And I'm like, you're right. And I tried and I succeeded because nobody asked me to do it before. I thought I wasn't capable of doing it. And I feel like so many people that are listening to the show, I might be in the same situation where they're like, oh, I don't do that. That's not what I do. That's not what I'm good at. How do you know? You've never tried.
So right off the bat with self-reliance, I mean, and you already hit it because it's the first, it's the first baggage item we all have. Oh, it's just do everything by yourself, kind of the, you're God, creator of all, don't need anybody, lone wolf, whatever. And you're dispelling that, which I dug that out. I was going to bring that up. Well, I'm going to ask you because I sure did do that direction. I've done that. It's still a propensity that I've got to remind myself. I love my autonomy. I love relying on myself, but I have and still have to watch out for just going it alone and not utilizing the benefit of other people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of my productivity hacks to be very good at doing more is working together with other people because two heads are always better than one. I feel like one of the rules of the book teaches everyone who reads it about how to build relationships. And how do you network? How do you network through social media? How do you network on a Zoom or a Teams call? How do you actually build relationships in today's world when there's so many people you want to interact with and you want to build relationships with? The reason why I want that to be a principle of self-reliance is I want to rely on myself to know how to build a good relationship and how to maintain it and keep it. I can't go to you and say, oh, excuse me, Kevin, you know those relationships you spent a lifetime building up? Can I borrow those for something I need? I want to rely on myself to know how to have that skill. How do I build a relationship with someone I don't know? How do I cultivate it? How do I nurture it? How do I grow it? How do I serve them? That's a skill in today's world that everybody needs to know how to do. Everybody needs to know how to learn how to build a relationship of network. With social media, honestly, it's never been easier. I can spend 15 minutes a day, going on LinkedIn, sharing my friends' work, commenting on their posts, learning about what they're up to without having to meet them over coffee in person. Because of the access that we have, we're able to maintain a one-to-many relationships with people and still keep relationships warm or leads or things that you want to nurture at the tip of your fingertips. Obviously, I want people to think about creating a real relationship, not just a social media one, but meeting them in person, bringing them value, connecting them to somebody else, introducing them to someone of value, solving a problem. Like I said, I think it's such an important skill. So when you talk about doing things alone and working alone, it's better if you have relationships because you can go farther. You'll create bigger opportunities for yourself and others. And you'll have that relationship as what I like to call a deposit in the trust bank. Like I want to have multiple deposits throughout my life in different people's trust banks. So if I ever need to make a withdrawal, I know who I can count on.
Yeah. I, as an entrepreneur, have developed, created so many things, launched so many things. And I've always got a new project. I've got a couple now. And Maha, I am exercising patience in a new way. I am harnessing other people and having conversations. And I've never experienced anything like it to this degree. I've never asked for that much input on something that I'm working on. And so I am right now. And the conversations, just that, I don't even know. So you're gleaning from people, you're getting wisdom from people, are you mining them from people? I'm just talking about it and asking them for their feedback. And just, it develops the insight that I've gotten from it is second to none.
I'm sure it's tremendous because there's only so much you can do alone, right? And there's so much you can do when you learn from other people. I talk a lot about learning and being curious as a key component of growing as an individual. And you can learn so much just from people.
Where do we just hit at a high level? Okay, we hit one of them, self-reliance. Because I was going to ask, where do we go wrong? And that's one, thinking that it's just us. We don't need anybody else. Okay, so that's not it. Where else do we generally thwart healthy self-reliance?
I think we think a lot about dealing with people in transactions. Like, what's in it for me? Why would I spend time doing that for somebody when I don't know if I'm getting something in return? That's where we go wrong. Is we think of tit for tat or transactions or I'll do this if you do this for me. What if you created value for people because it was the right thing to do and you had a long-term vision in mind of investing in a relationship and taking that withdrawal 6 months from now, a year from now? I think that's where we go wrong is we want that. I have very limited time. I'm only going to spend it on the people that can serve me. Well, that's not going to serve you.
Okay, let's talk looking again at self-reliance. I mean, you've already said, and we've kind of covered that it's not just it's all about you and doing everything yourself. But I do want to put in, it feels like the primary message, the thread of your book is taking responsibility fully for everything to a degree. It's not all on you, but it is all your responsibility. It's not a super popular concept right now. It's probably why you wrote a book about it. But it feels like, I don't want to be negative, but it looks, as we look out, like we're kind of in a victim culture, and taking responsibility is somewhat controversial
Yeah.
almost.
Taking accountability and responsibility is not something a lot of people want to do. Everyone wants to just do what they need to do without having to be judged for it or be accountable for it or be responsible for it. And I think the answer to that question is one of the things I talk a lot about in the book of like, what can you do to bring value to others? And it starts for me with a simple question by asking, how can I help? If you can be of value to other people, you become invaluable. And if you become valuable to other people, you give them good advice or you help them or you partner with them or you work with them in some formal or informal capacity. If I keep doing things that are valuable for people, like I work with you and two or three other people and I do something that's very important, I ultimately create value for myself
Yeah.
because I get the experience. I get the satisfaction of accomplishing it. I'm the one who brought value to somebody that it was not, I didn't think I was capable of doing. That's the difference of how I think about it. Instead of like not wanting to take responsibility or accountability, I think about, okay, how can I flip it on its head and create value for somebody or something that's really important to, like, let's say, for example, with you, and I try to find out what are the things that you care about the most. And then I'm like, how can I deliver that?
Chocolate, you can deliver chocolate. We're
Okay,
good.
dark chocolate or white chocolate?
Oh no, dark,
Dark, yeah,
absolutely.
milk
Yeah,
chocolate. I don't like white chocolate either. I'm a huge dark chocolate fan.
white's a little too sweet, kind of like milk chocolate. Yeah, no, I'm a dark chocolate
Okay,
connoisseur.
I like
For
that.
sure.
That's my kind.
I, thinking about it, Maha, not to make it a spiritual religious thing, but that's my background. And I struggled a lot with the waiting on God kind of concept. And in my frustration, now again, I erred on the side of, I think, too much self-reliance, and it was all up on me and about me and whatever. But I'd get frustrated with the waiting on God concept over here. And I've kind of, we develop our own theories. And now I look at it for myself as somebody who believes in God as, okay, I do believe in waiting on God, but it's going to kind of be an active waiting. I
Yeah,
don't see God reaching down, grabbing us and forcing us over here. He seems to direct, as my perspective, once we're up and moving, even my self-reliance to get up and move and let him direct, my self-reliance to even listen for direction, it still calls on me. I'm not going to sit on my couch and wait for God to literally pick me up and move me over somewhere. And it helps me with that grappling of healthy
yeah.
self-reliance and not fall into the unhealthy.
Yeah, and I think in that context of how can I help me help myself? Like instead of waiting, sitting around, moping, not moping, but just like hoping things will happen for the best. How am I putting myself in a position to be better today than I was yesterday? Like, am I curious? Am I asking questions? Am I trying to acquire knowledge? Am I making an effort to build relationships? Am I seeking the opportunity to add value for somebody? All of those are questions. Obviously, God plays a big role in like opening up opportunities for you, but you need to put yourself in a position. If you want to be valuable to other people, first you must be valuable. Do you know anything? Do you have any skills? Do you have any expertise? Are you good with people? Are you good with money? Are you good with problem solving? Are you good with listening? Everybody has a skill. Everybody has something of value to offer. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of, are you activating it? Or are you waiting for someone to tap you to activate it?
Well, let's hit another topic that's popular right now is the whole, I mean, you can't get online with that, and at least in our demographic and our arena here without manifesting. I've never heard more
Yes.
terms there. And I feel it's very similar to what we just talked about with God, that there can be this aspect of, sit on your couch and you're going to manifest this thing and money is going to fly through the window on the back of a bird or whatnot. And maybe it will. And somebody, I just said that it actually happened to them. I'm not discounting anything. In general, though, I still feel like the primary messages are based on what you said. You're still actively knocking. You're still putting yourself in the right position.
Sense, yeah,
Yeah.
to succeed in the things that you want to do. I think, I don't know, thinking a little bit about the manifestation question, it's a lot about being intentional with what you want, right? And when you are thinking about some of the concepts in the book of like being more self-reliant, I think a lot about your personal brand. How are you showing up? How intentional are you with other people? There's no difference between, that and the concept of building your personal brand because you're trying to be intentional. How am I want to show up in the world? What is it that I want the world to know about me? I want to manifest these relationships. I want to build these opportunities for myself. Well, first you must build a strong reputation. You must build really good relationships with people. I do see the relationship and the correlation between them.
You have somewhere in the book just kind of a list. When you are self-reliant, and dash, and you've got, I think it's like 5 or 6 things here that I wanted to walk through.
Okay.
When you're self-reliant, you are not let down by the expectations of others. Again, I like these because I wouldn't necessarily have thought to put them under the umbrella of self-reliance. So that's why I interested myself. You're not let down by the expectations of others. Tell us that in reference to how that is a sign of self-reliance.
Yeah. So like I'm relying on myself to build the ideas in the future that I want, right? I'm not waiting for people to do things for me. I'm not upset because people didn't step up for me when I'm capable of stepping up for myself. One of the things that I talk about when, like, if you don't want to be let down by other people and you want to be more self-reliant, look at what you're curious about and how can you acquire the skills that you need or that you're missing. It's just putting yourself in the right position to open up opportunities for yourself. A big part of my growth and my journey and my story is I was willing to put in the effort to learn things I was not aware of or I wasn't capable of doing. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to outwork the person sitting next to me because they get it and I don't.
Okay, let's dig in on that one.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, I hear you and I'm with you. On the other hand, I struggle with folks who take that concept and go towards things that they really are not well equipped for.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yes, self-awareness, knowing your boundaries, knowing your limits, having self-awareness to know, you know what, I don't know this, I'm capable of learning it, or know what, it's a little bit outside of my zone. I need to be realistic and have that self-awareness. So it's really being intuitive to who you are and being self-aware.
Yeah, because if you offer me $500,000 a year to do your taxes,
not doing it.
Much as I would like to, we're both going to suffer dramatically.
Tremendously.
All right. The next one you have here, when you're self-reliant, you're in control and not waiting on others. I guess we've touched that to some degree, but you're in control. You're not waiting on others. That it reminds me kind of the sales process of the most dangerous thing is the maybe. Don't wait on the maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's multiple things. Like when you're in control, like I don't have to wait for you to give me your relationships. I can learn how to build my own relationships. I don't have to depend on your reputation to get me in the door. I can depend on my reputation to get me in the door. I don't need to depend on your knowledge. I can go learn it myself. So that's what I mean by that. Like you can really rely on yourself to do things. There are some things you just can't do and you do need help from other people or you do need to partner with someone else to do it. But I'm asking you to have that self-awareness question first of asking, is that something that I'm just like, I'd just rather take the shortcut and have him do it? Or is that something I actually probably should need to know? What if we have another pandemic and I need relationships to save my business and I don't have them? You're going to be too busy saving your business. You're not going to have time to think about my problems. So I want you to build up that muscle. So when you need to have those relationships, you have invested time learning how to do that.
All right. This next one's a big one for me.
Okay.
Waiting for validation from others. And it's big because the whole concept of validation, I struggle with a lot. So
I think this is exasperated by social media. Like we want approval from each other, from other people. We play the comparison game. We are, distracted by what other people are achieving in their lives when their journeys are much different than our journeys from in every way, shape or form, how we grew up, how our living means, our access to work, what we do for a living, our relationships, our family situations, everything about me and you is 100% different. Why would I expect our paths to be similar or for us to have equal opportunities? It just doesn't make any sense. So when I talk about this concept of waiting for validation from others, you shouldn't be waiting for validation from others because your circumstances are so much different than theirs. They don't know your story, your journey, your pains, your struggles, your failures, your successes, your relationships. And I feel often in life, we don't take that move to quit that job or apply for a different job or take an opportunity because we're waiting for other people to say, it's okay, go ahead, you can do it. when you should be the person telling yourself, it's okay, go ahead, you can do it.
Okay, I want to keep digging on that one because I appreciate that. So I look at validation and I I'm not a huge fan in the way that we perceive of it. I don't feel needing validation for our self-worth is healthy. So I want to say, no, my self-worth is intact. I do not need somebody else's validation. You just said, in essence, permission to, go forward. I don't need that as well. But I'm again going to talk about my own struggle that I can also go forward. And I probably should check in with some folks on who I perceive have wisdom on, help me look at this.
Very true. I love that
one. And then also, as I have to watch myself because again, I can tend to be like, screw validation completely. No, you don't need other people's validation. And then I remind myself, okay, but I do check in. Even that, I'd kind of, it'd be like polling all my guests. So, you've been on my show. What'd you think? How did you feel about it? Now, it's not about my self-worth, but it is somewhat a bit of an audit and feedback on how you perceive me. And that matters.
Yeah, of course. I think you care about your reputation. That's why you're asking that question. And I think everyone should be every day thinking about their reputation, how to build it, how to grow it, how to protect it, how to make sure that it's strong, because your reputation is what opens doors for you. It's what keeps you in the rooms, is what keeps you in your job. It's what keeps you with your family. So I feel that's 100% valid and necessary. I feel like the problem that some people have is they're just waiting and hoping that it'll come to them, and that they're waiting for that validation. And it may never come because nobody's thinking about your problems the way that you're thinking about them. Or, no one's putting you at the top of the priority list like you should be putting yourself at the top of your priority list. I feel that's where the struggle comes from, is the people who are waiting for that validation, and it's never going to come.
Well, you've said, like, if we did a word filter here, the word waiting comes up over and over and over
again.
And it's relevant. Of course, I think of myself. I'd like to think of myself, as Mr. Driven. I make decisions. I make things happen. But Maha, there's been times, even in the past year, probably, where I found myself kind of sitting there going, well, crap. I guess it's on me. I need to pick up Maha's book and then be self-reliant. And I think it comes to all of us there at some point. So waiting. Well, so we'll keep coming back to that. Your next one on the
yourself up bootstraps. You know what? I have to have self-awareness and recognize that I'm doing it in order to step out of it, because it's easy to just get in that comfort zone and that cycle of like, opportunities will come to me. It's going to happen. It's what I do, and people will see me, and it'll eventually work out. And sometimes it does, but I'm just saying, put yourself in a position to get the things that you want by really driving that. If it's not manifestation, but it could be just being a little bit more intentional about how you do things.
Let's hit on that there, because I'm thinking about, as much as I want to think of myself as being responsible for myself and being self-reliant, I do have an aspect, I think, some compassion for the feeling sometimes of, oh my gosh, it's a lot of weight. Does somebody not have my back? I mean, is it really all on me? And that can actually bring in the spiritual component, as you know, to go, is there anyone that has my back, from whether it's a God or even a father figure, parent figure, parental figure, mother figure, whatever, that let's hit on that. Cause I can align somewhat. I can tap into, and I've seen it with some of my kids sometimes, of going, like, kind of the adulting kind of concept of going, oh crap. Like, I really have to, I think I'm growing some compassion for the weight that can feel like.
Yeah, I understand it. I feel like for you to think about your role in it and not leave it up to the powers that be, that's what I'm trying to get at there. Like, for self-reliance to work, don't be waiting for people to support you. If you don't show up for yourself, no one's going to show up for you. If you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to believe in you.
That line there is probably the best answer. I like that. If I don't show up for me, why would someone else? And I know that I, as the showing up for someone else, am much more prone to show up for somebody who I can see they're trying to show up for themselves than somebody who's
making an effort versus somebody who's not.
Yeah, fair enough. Next one on the list here you have is a self-reliant person doesn't worry about judgment from others. go into that because that could real close. Somebody could mix that in with the validation we just talked about, but you separate out judgment.
I mean, one of the reasons why some people don't like creating content on social media is because they don't want people to judge them. They don't want to say, look, who does she think she is? Or why is he doing that? Like, that's just so weird. Like, that's the comparison and the judgment deters a lot of people from doing things that they really care about.
Yeah.
And nobody knows, like I said previously, like your path, your journey, what you care about, your circumstances. Why are you doing this? I feel like that's where we get a little bit too caught up in it. And one of the first rules of the book is called stay low, keep moving, because I want people to stay low, to stay focused on what they care about, not be low profile, but just how do you stay with blinders on so that you don't get distracted by life and other people's priorities and social media comparison and all these obligations that are in your life that suck up all the things that you care about spending your time doing. And so that's what it comes down to me is like, how well can you stay focused on not being worried about how other people are judging you? Because you know what's best for you. You know what you need. You know how your life operates and you own the manual.
Okay, this last one here, stop wishing for things and take action. Here's what concerns me on our culture. I'm going to look to movies, the superhero movies. And the ones, the Spider-Man, the whatever, where, the hapless person goes in and something happens. They get bit by a spider. They get superpowers. How cool is that? Or they fall in a vat of chemicals or whatever. Those are the movies that we spend millions to go watch because what a fairy tale or a fairy. Yeah, we meet the fairy godmother who gives us, whatever. And I mean, I wouldn't be upset if that happened. I can't say that it has necessarily. Most of the time I look at it, most of the success stories we really have, that didn't happen. The people looked around and said, yeah, I just don't know that I'm going to get bit by a spider. I guess I got to go figure this out on my own. That's what I thought of here. But I'm just, man, the culture pushes that concept.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I think it's part of getting wrapped up in society about how things play out and how we do that comparison. But we also tend to, just the way that the communications has changed. Like it used to be, you call people, you go visit them in their homes. Like it was very much more private. Now you can see what everyone's doing all the time. And so it's difficult to think out loud, or like I always like to call it like, doing maintenance on the car while it's driving down the highway. Everybody's watching.
Actually, it pulls me back again to what I shared a little bit ago, that I'm at this place now of getting more value than ever on a project. And I have spent more time asking for input than I ever
That's have. So good though. That shows that you are willing to ask for help when you need it, bring in people to help build relationships with you that can give you ideas or insight that you didn't have. And it's you're actually being intentional. You have good self-awareness of what you know and what you don't know and where you need to get the help. That's practicing self-reliance.
Yeah. Gosh, back to your thing on judgment. Now, I'm privileged and I don't really have people in my life who are going to negatively judge me. But even with this, one of the current projects that I have more faith in than anything I've ever worked on. I think it's brilliant. I think we should win a Nobel Prize for it. And
That's
sending
cool.
it out, there's a little concern that people get it and go, I don't think anybody that I know would have said, oh, it just totally sucks. But to go, I just don't get it. It just doesn't resonate. I mean, I knew that was within me. It still was. It was still not even an insecurity, but an awareness of, I do care. It is, how about vulnerable? It can still be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think that's hard for people to be vulnerable. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to be exposed. We don't want to share our weaknesses. We don't want to tell people we don't have it all figured out. We don't want to tell people, I don't know. And that's normal.
Okay, let me ask you on this, because you do have a good bit, and you've mentioned it already, on self-confidence. We mentioned self-worth and these aspects. You mentioned you've got to be aware of yourself and know yourself. Is it viable to say, man, if you're really struggling with self-reliance, that may be a place where you need to start. You need to get to know yourself. If you're not feeling that confidence and you're hearing this and going, gosh, this resonates, but man, I just don't have that much faith in myself.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's valid. And here's what to do.
The number one thing I got from people who read the book, just to be really frank with you, is that it gave them confidence. It allowed them to trust themselves. that they could do hard things or that they can do things they didn't think they were capable of. When the book first came out, that's what I got. The early feedback was like, this book gave me confidence. And a lot of times, and I talk about this a lot, that a lot of people like don't want to take a step until they feel confident doing it. I'm like, the act of taking the step, that's what will give you the confidence. Because you'll see that you're capable of doing it. You're going to get the first time you do it, you're not going to, it's just like making pancakes. The first time you make pancakes, they don't turn out that good. But then you do it the second and the third time, and then you kind of know what you're doing. Action gives you confidence. And then you're able to do things that you weren't think you were capable of doing because you practiced it enough. And so that's what I always tell people. They're like, oh, I want to wait until I get the confidence and then I'm going to go for it. I'm like, that's not how it works. You go for it. And then the confidence comes from actually going for it.
Okay. I want to walk through some of these. And you've got, of course, it's based on 5 rules here. And that you mentioned this one already, stay low and keep moving, which when I first read that, I just didn't quite stay low. Really? Okay. And but then, so here's my paraphrasing, Maha, because you referenced like kind of a military, and the crawl and the going over the obstacles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I realize I revere that. I revere that in people. I want to think of myself as that. Some of my favorite movies are like the Jason Bourne type character or the Book of Eli, if you know that one, where they're just gladiator. I mean, where it's just somebody who is resolute. They are going to they're mortal. They can get hurt, but they are resolute and they're going to go forward. And as I was thinking about it, reading your book and reading through this chapter, I thought, and you mentioned it a minute ago, some of me is that way. I could be better. I still allow myself to get distracted, to procrastinate, to do some of those things and just kind of give in and find that I'm not. The word resolute is what came up as I read your book. There's sometimes when I am not being as resolute as I would like to be, and I'm not keeping moving.
Yeah, but sometimes we have you can only give 40% that day, and then that's 100% for you. Right? The concept of stay low, keep moving is stay low to stay focused on what you care about. There's so many distractions that are there to deter you from what you care about. It's like sitting in front of your inbox all day and just answering emails. Those are other people's priorities coming into you that you're just responding to. What if you close that and work on the things that you wanted to wake up to do that day, right? So stay low means stay focused and from avoiding a lot of the distractions. Not all the time, but like carve out time to focus on doing deep. Second, keep moving. You're going to have setbacks. There's going to be an economic downturn. You're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a family problem come up. That's life. That's how things operate. Nobody has it up and to the right and roses and bubblegum. Like that's not how life works. So you need to think about what is it that you need to do to keep moving despite that. People who are self-reliant know this rule. And that's why it's number 1 is that you got to stay low and you got to just keep moving. I'm not going to have a good day today. That's fine. Tomorrow's a reset. I didn't sleep that great last night. I don't feel like I'm going to be that productive. Try to get to bed tonight early so tomorrow can be a better day. You don't beat yourself up over it. You got to give yourself grace, and you have to figure out that life is this up and down cycle. And so you just need to do your best to keep it as moving in the right direction as you can.
That's another area that I've grown in a lot, I think recently is, you said the word grace. I have not been the most gracious with myself. Is that, and also, looking at the day and kind of budgeting and realizing, man, a lot happened today. Yeah. Maybe not a great night's sleep, something with the kids or something. Give myself a break for the next day, budget a little bit.
I mean, I didn't work out today. What am I going to do? I want to make sure I get a workout in tomorrow. How can I plan better? I just feel like life is messy and we just need to be pivoting around the days, the peaks and the valleys, right? And I feel like giving yourself, there's enough negativity in the world. You don't need to be talking negative to yourself. The thoughts and the things that you say to yourself are the most important. So think about that. Actually, that's the last line of the book is the most important story is the story you tell yourself. Am I capable? Can I do this? Am I going to have bad days? Can I ask for help? Can I build up my reputation and bring myself opportunities? Can I learn new things? Can I bring value to others? Can I not be a waiter? That's what the essence of the book is about.
The other part of the stay low, you mentioned this already, social media. And what I paraphrased out of what you wrote was an aspect of humility, honestly. was humility and not taking the time to, that's the thing we're supposed to do. Take every success and shout it on social media and try to almost like to leverage it, to get the momentum going. And you come at it with a perspective of, stay in your lane, do your thing. And that's what I took out of it is to a degree, be humble.
I feel like, if you do hard work, it'll speak for itself. And I feel like you don't need to be out there promoting yourself. You just need to be doing good work that brings impact and value to others. And if you can consistently do that, everything will come to you. I really believe that. And that's like, it's my story, actually. I come from humble beginnings. I don't have a bank account. I don't have a family business. I don't have power behind me. I have hard work in front of me. And I do that. That's what brings results.
What you just said a moment ago is it's a great lead into the second part. Rule number 2 is be a value creator. So this show, Maha, originated long ago as the Ziglar Show. And it was me really taking forward the messages from Zig Ziglar. What I think at this point, his most famous quote that exists at this point is, you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. So when I read that, be a value creator, it reminded me of Seth Godin back with Lynchpin, of being indispensable. Don't just do what's expected, do more than is expected. What is some way to stand out, which I feel like is almost a lost art in the workplace today.
I think that's the creating value. Like, what can you do to bring value for others before they ask you to do it? Like, what I give countless examples in the book of, like, I really wanted to work with Gary Vee. Well, was I willing to add value to him before he hired my company to work with him? Like, I had to be willing to do things without getting anything in return, just to demonstrate my value, just to show what I was capable of, just to show how I work, just to show my good intentions. And I think that's very, very important.
Tell me, you mentioned expectations above. I have found myself coming back to this with adult kids and looking at them, going to work and saying, look, when you do what's expected, so here's what the job is, here's what you're supposed to do, and you do it, and you think that you've, I did it. And I'm going, the bummer is you did what was expected. That's what was expected. And when you meet it and you feel kind of congratulatory for yourself, you just did what was hoped that you would do to begin with. To really stand out, you got to do more. And that feels like a big part of this. If you want to be a value, you got to do something special.
Yeah, I think you should think about the way that the market and the business world works today. I'm not only competing, I live in Minneapolis, that people that live in my city that might do the same job that I do. I'm competing with anyone with an internet connection who can take my job. So how am I working hard to differentiate myself, to stand out? The competitive market and the career mobility is real. And so you need to be thinking about, if you just want to just do the basic, someone else is willing to outwork you to do something more because they want that role and they want the growth of that role, or they want that opportunity that you're sitting on. So you always have to be thinking about, how can I be a value creator? How can I bring relationships that are valuable to my organization or my company? What can I do to build a strong reputation so that they want to keep me in their circles? It's not enough just to meet expectations. You have to be valuable and create value for others.
Okay, take that. Let's take it into because I wouldn't want people to hear that. That means you're the consummate first one there, last one to go.
You're just talking about hustle culture and killing yourself.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the concept of creating value. I have to understand, Kevin, what do you care about? What is valuable to you, and deliver that. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm working 20 hours extra than the person sitting next to me. It's the quality of what I'm doing has to be meaningful. And that's what I'm talking about.
Even the aspect of, and you said it to some degree, that it's not so much there's no way I can come with anything at this point. Am I going to say, oh, I am the best? I'm literally the best, or feel like I have to do better. I have to do more. But you said it, I can be different. I can differentiate myself to some degree. That feels like the hope that we can all do, because at some point we're never going to outwork. There's going to be somebody who does more.
Yeah, but I think that comes in one of the biggest skills that I think everyone needs to learn how to do is how to be a good storyteller. How do you communicate? How do you tell people about what you're contributing, the value that you're bringing? That's important. Knowing how to connect with an audience, to tell a story, to share your concepts, to share your ideas. It's very, very important.
You, on that note, and it was under one of the chapters here. I'll just go ahead and pull it out there because it reminded me again of well, just go to that. There's no way at this point we can claim to be the best. We're competing around the globe, but we can be different. And also we can connect with people, just like you talked about. It kind of coming back to what, has been called the soft skills. Somebody, I wish I could reference who it was, said, we need to quit calling them soft skills and call them necessary skills. The ability to relate, the ability to connect feels like one of the greatest assets in the workplace or just in life. It's again become a missing art to some degree. And I feel like you spoke to that in the book.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole rule in the book called be a long-term player.
Yeah.
What can you do to create relationships with other people that's not based on transactions? How do you be long-term? Like that means spend time, show up for them, invest in your relationship, introduce them to other people. And I think we live so much in a world of transactions where we want to, I talk about this a lot, tap to pay and get out of the store, download the whole season now. Like we want instant gratification. And what if you built relationships over time and make deposits over time so that someday you may or may not make a withdrawal on that relationship? And so the importance of doing that is what I outline in the book, and teaching you how to network through LinkedIn, teaching you how to master the art of the DM on Instagram or LinkedIn or any social media platform. How do you take a DM into an email into a meeting? That's a skill everyone needs to know how to do.
And that, be a long-term player. That was rule number 6. I think earlier I said 5 rules. There's 7 rules, folks. That was number 6. And we have talked about the third rule is don't be a waiter. And you mentioned that quite a bit. And we talked about, waiting, but you catch it between waiting versus creating. And in my mind, I right away said, creating the opportunity, not waiting for it. And I think we've covered that quite a bit here, but it seems to be, if I was to pull one primary thread out of the book, that'd probably be it.
Yeah, very true. I think because most people find themselves waiting. Most people find themselves waiting for fear of failure, waiting because we don't want people to judge us, waiting because we're waiting for permission, waiting until we get more money in the bank account, waiting until we lose those 10 pounds. We find ourselves waiting because it's a safety net. It's a safer place to be than to pushing ourselves to go out there to do other things. So yeah, I mean, it's critical piece of, it's one of the most important chapters of the book. Just to go over the rules, the first one we talked about, stay low, keep moving. The second one, don't be a waiter. The second one is be a value creator. The third one, don't be a waiter. The one that I really want to talk about that we haven't touched on yet has to do with learning and unlearning and investing in yourself.
That was next, Maha. And I really focused on that one as well, because unlearn, not just learn something, but unlearn and relearn, and reminded me of so often when I literally wrote this down in my notes when I was reading it, that we look at just stacking our knowledge. I'm going to learn this and this and stacking our knowledge, and find out, man, the best things that I have learned is because I first had to unlearn something else to replace it with. So I love that you've got that as a focus.
Yeah, I think a lot about that. Like if people ask me, hey, Maha, what can I do today then to be more self-reliant today than I was yesterday? I'm like, be curious. What can you learn? What are things that you have built up in your belief system, society, education, friends, family that you need to unlearn that's no longer serving you? So for example, when I look at hiring practices, even at my own company, right? I used to just look at degree, where they went to school, what company did they have, what title they have. I need to unlearn that process because I'm putting people in specific boxes, and that's no longer serving me or my company. I need to look at the skills. What kind of different experience? What kind of industries did they look at? Are they empathetic? Are they kind? Are they emotional? Are they team leaders? Are they good thinkers? Are they collaborators? Are they, listeners? Like I need to be thinking. I need to unlearn my practices of what I think is important when looking for a candidate and relearn based on how society is currently wired. Somebody might have a degree that's not related to my industry, but that gave them really good breeding ground and experience that I can find valuable because it might be valuable for my clients. So I think about, what do I need to unlearn that's no longer serving me? What do I need to relearn because times are changing? And then investing in myself. What am I doing to invest in myself? Am I waiting for my manager to take me to training and to teach me stuff, or can I get online? Aren't podcasts for free? Aren't YouTube videos for free? Isn't us having a conversation free? It's there. You just need to make the effort to go learn it.
Again, I'm enamoring myself with this and thinking that is a place on my show right here to come up with every episode. Guys, today's episode is on X. But first, to take this in, we probably need to unlearn something.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, again, reading the book, that's what I was thinking is there ever anything that I have learned? Maybe there is, but the biggest things that I have learned is because I first unlearned.
Unlearned.
Yeah.
You practiced it.
Yeah.
I always challenge people, can you spend 15 minutes a week? That's all. Trying to learn something new. Yeah. Is it pickleball? Is it a recipe? Is it cooking? Is it related to a hobby, a craft, an application you want to learn how to use? It doesn't have to be a lot, but a little goes a long way.
Every one of these conversations I get to have, I always walk away with some key things, with a lot of things, but key things that hit me. That's going to be one on here, is the unlearning. And it's not that I haven't known that, but it just helped me clarify it. And I think I would do better for myself and for the influence I get to have, to give more focus to the unlearning. Kind of that, it reminded me of the, everything you say yes, every new thing you say yes to, you're going to have to say no to something else. And I like that here. So if you're going to learn this, what do you need to unlearn? Well, okay. And I'm biased too, because the project I keep talking about, that's the primary premise of it, is getting people to unlearn one thing and then accept the other. So, I'll put you in the acknowledgments of that new project for that. The rule 5 here, think of your reputation as currency.
Yes.
And I want to expound on that, because I'm concerned that a lot of people will hear that and go, yeah, I know. We don't know. We're not doing it well as a culture. Think of your reputation as currency. And of course, your headline there is trust. I don't know. I feel like as the days goes on, there's just nothing left. There's nothing left.
Yeah. I believe we live in a trust economy, right? We need to trust the people that we follow, or that we listen to, or that we give our attention to. And the reason why this chapter is the biggest chapter in the book is I feel like you do need to treat your personal brand or your name, like a reputation, like a currency. What's its worth? What's its value? And I need everyone to learn the importance of building your own personal brand. It's the importance of building your reputation. What are the things that you care about? What is it you want the world to know about you? That's key.
Okay. Give me your thoughts on this, Maha.
Yes.
I am obviously curious and concerned about the culture. I think we're more influenced by it because we're inundated by it than ever. So just as I talked about, the movies that depict the something happening to you.
Yep.
That doesn't necessarily happening. We have so much out there. And I was thinking of some shows that I've seen pieces of. I'll even name them. Yellowstone, a real popular show right now.
Oh,
and
Yellowstone.
A new one, Landman, came out.
Love it. I've seen it.
I have too. Well, and I do like them. But reading this chapter, I frustrated myself with them because reputation is currency. They give so much focus, I feel, tell me what you think, on the end result. We're going after this end result, this big payoff, and we're doing it, and we have money and we have power, and it's intriguing. But at the end of it, I don't know that I like any of them. I don't know that I would trust any of them.
I don't think they're building it the right way.
Agreed.
Something that
agreed. And I'm looking out in the real world and I'm going, that's great. You made $1 billion, but I hate you. I don't only trust you. You're awesome.
I don't aspire to be that. But the good news is that you recognize it and that's a clean reputation. That's something I can trust. That's something I can believe in. The biggest part about there's 2 factors to a strong reputation. It's trust and credibility. I have to trust that you are who you say you are. And then I have to believe you have the credibility to back it up. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Like when you think about reputation, it can't be about power and influence and strong arming somebody else. It really has to be about trust and credibility.
Yeah. And I guess it brings up your goal. If your goal is world domination and you can prove that you can do that, maybe somebody will hire you, but I don't know that they want to hang out with you or have a relationship with you. And at the end of the day, if you are happy cuddling up with your pile of gold as opposed to a person,
You can't take it with you. When you die, you can't take that with you.
fair enough. We hit be a long-term player. The last one, again, I interest myself a lot with this. Rule number 7, live with no regrets. And in the first or second sentence, you also say, we do all have regrets for decisions we made and decisions we didn't make. But, says Maha, the point that it felt like you're making here is, and you literally wrote it, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that bad things that happen to them define them. So rule number 7, the last rule of the book, is called live with no regrets. It's easy to say, very difficult to do. What can you do to live with no regrets? What can you do to make sure that the things that have happened to you don't define you? My mother had multiple sclerosis. I've been watching her since I was 14. And my father had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And for most of my life, from 14 to 38, I was a caretaker. That was my role in life, was to take care of 2 very sick parents. And I think, I could have let define me. That's it. That's my life. I'm just a caretaker. That's all I'm good at. I don't have any other skills, ambitions, needs, desires, ideas of things I want to do with my life. And I didn't want it to define me and say, oh, that's just labeling me. That's what I am. I'm actually that and. Instead of or, it was and.
So the book hasn't been out long.
No.
Obviously getting lots of feedback from it. And a little bit ago, you mentioned something that you were getting feedback on. Yeah. What are a couple other things that you have primary threads of feedback? So as people have gotten it, you said they're reading it, and one of the feedback loops is it helps me feel more confident.
Yeah.
Is that the number one?
There's 3 things that I've heard a lot from people who are posting, tagging me, sharing me, DMing me. Number 1, reading the book gives me confidence, allows me the ability to trust myself, then listen to my gut. Number 2, the biggest chapter that gets me is the don't be a waiter, because I found myself waiting. And number 3, the most valuable chapter is the one having to do with how to build my personal brand. Because if I can set up myself for success and build my own personal brand, that means I know how to create value for others. I know how to build a network. I know how to not be a waiter. I know how to invest in myself. I know how to unlearn and learn and relearn. And that wraps up kind of all of the different rules of the book. So that's the main things. I would love if anyone, gets a copy of the book to tag me on what they found was meaningful, what said their biggest takeaway was. It's helped so many people. And you get to know a little bit about me and my story. And so I demonstrate, every chapter has practical exercises so you can put the rules to work for you.
Well, you just said the word demonstrate. And that's something I'll say now, but I'll also put it in the intro of this, that as you have written this book on self-reliance, you share your story in the book. And I would say your story showcases that you had I don't want to say every right, every reason to not live a self-reliant life. And
yeah, for sure.
To me, that makes it a heck of a lot more credible and palatable. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin,
for doing what you've done, for bringing this forward. And opening my eyes to more of how I can embrace self-reliance in my own life. I'm grateful for the gift.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us in this discussion. That again, Maha Abouelenein. 7 rules of self-reliance, how to stay low, keep moving, invest in yourself, and own your future. That was my muse. You saw or heard me talk through aspects of that today. You can find that, of course, anywhere you buy your books, and you can connect with Maha more at justhername.com. Maha, M-A-H-A, last name, Abouelenein, ABOUELENEIN.com. Got questions for her, for me on this topic, or want to connect with me about integrating these aspects into your life and looking at your evolution, your personal evolution, and getting that integrated into your work, connect with me at kevinmiller.co or email me, kmiller@kevinmiller.co. Hey, here's to the evolving you.
Yeah.